Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Let me know if I sound okay. All right. Hey. So, I'm going to be doing daily news streams. It's just good to keep up with what's going on and to parse that together. I think there's a lot of pressure with an increasingly AI overridden social media to just see headlines or screenshots, which these days could just be fake and don't really go anywhere except freak you out. And I think it would be good to have some, consistency there and get to kind of parse it together. And it's also like, it's frustrating to sit down and read the news. It's boring and it sucks. So I hope by making it a regular stream thing, and I'm going to start having cleaner clips that can cut apart, it'll be good. It'll be, easier to do with people, and then there'll be little like segments I can put on YouTube, and then it'll be easier. Yeah, so we're just gonna go through a few stories of the day and see where they take us. I'm gonna try to make an effort too to first just read through an article in full, and then then we'll comment on it. What? Someone already left a weird comment. I protested the death of two protesters. Now protest the death of a man who unalived 30,000 protesters. Why would I protest someone who killed protesters? What? Wouldn't I protest on behalf of the protesters, not the death of the murderer? Is this about Iran? Fuck Iran. If that needs saying, fuck Iran. Fuck the Iranian regime, which is not actually toppled. In fact, it has been strengthened, and that's something I want to get into today. Because I think that's of concern, kind of no matter who you are. So first, let's take a look at that. So, in the US, the leader of Iran, along with several other higher ups in the Iranian regime, have all been killed. And that included the people that Donald's regime wanted to put in charge. Oops, I guess. Pathetic, frankly. But they have appointed a new leader who is just the son of the last guy, who, by the way, was 85, 86. So it's not really like they took someone out who was going to be in there for a while, or in any position of long-lasting power. If anything, they've just given new life to a regime as it turns over to the next generation. So let's get to know the new guy. What happened there? Iran's next supreme leader, Khomeini's hardline son, Mojtaba. I do not speak any languages from this region of the world, so I apologize for any pronunciations. Mojtaba Khomeini will succeed his father, Ali Khomeini, as Iran's next supreme leader, Iranian state media reported Sunday. Why it matters. The move consolidates hardline control even as U.S. and Israeli strikes pound the country. The regime is at its most vulnerable state since the 1979 revolution, and critics have previously railed against Mojtaba's rise, citing his limited formal experience, modest theological credentials, and the regime's aversion to dynastic rule. What they're saying: Assembly of Experts issued a statement calling on the Iranian people to keep unity and pledge allegiance to the new supreme leader. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps pledged allegiance to the new leader and said it's ready to fully obey his commands, according to Tehran's Farms news agency. The other side: President Trump acknowledged to Axios during a Thursday interview that the younger Khomeini was the most likely successor, but he made clear he found this outcome unacceptable. Oops. Khomeini's son is a lightweight. I have to be involved in the appointment, like with Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela, Trump told Axios. Not really your job, bud, but okay. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. Reading through this article, and then we will react to it. Catch up quick. The US and Israel killed Ali Khamenei in major combat operations after Iran refused to agree to a nuclear deal. So, war. The attacks also targeted Mujtaba and other senior officials, but the younger Khamenei survived. Ali Khamenei's top security advisor, Ali Shamkhani, IRGC commander Mohammad Pakpour, and defense minister Aziz Nasirzadeh are dead, scrambling the top of the Iranian government. The intrigue. Ali allegedly floated potential successors with stronger administrative and theological credentials, and Mujtaba wasn't among them, according to the Council on Foreign Relations. Mujtaba, Ali's second eldest son, was born in 1969. His childhood was shaped by both the 1979 Iranian Revolution that toppled the previous dynasty and by his father's rise to power, first as president in 1981, then as supreme leader in 1989. A cleric, Mujtaba studied under the late Ayatollah Muhammad Taqi Mesbah Yazdi, who called for killing Iranian youths who promoted Western immorality. Mujtaba joined the Revolutionary Guard at 17, serving during the Iran-Iraq War in the Habib Battalion. The battalion is a notoriously ideological unit, led by one of the founders of Hezbollah, according to the Atlantic Council. Many of its alumni later became high-ranking members of the regime's security and intelligence bodies. Between the lines, Mujtaba is expected to be more hardline than his father, and his ascent means the Iranian regime may get more repressive. Uh-oh. They hired a guy, or they promoted a guy, who is just the son of the last leader, so it's personal for him, who has less education, less qualification, and is more of a nutjob. He has close ties to some of the most ideologically extremist clerics who have been at the forefront of the regime's most violent crackdowns, per the council. Mujtaba also allegedly engineered the 2005 election that installed Mahmoud Ahmadinejad as president. In the 2009 election, protesters flooded the streets to insist Ahmadinejad didn't win again, and Mujtaba reportedly personally supervised how the IRGC crushed these demonstrations. Zoom in. Mujtaba reportedly oversees a massive business empire of luxury properties and investments worldwide, according to Bloomberg. He does not list the investments under his name, but has amassed wealth despite 2019 U.S. sanctions for his role in his father's inner circle. At the time, the Treasury said Mujtaba worked to advance his father's destabilizing regional ambitions and oppressive domestic objectives. Okay. I'm sorry, I've not made much content, but we're getting back into it full time. We're going to have regular uploads, at least like once a day. So, this is the new leader of Iran. It's the son of the last guy. The last guy was very, very old anyway. He was in his 80s. I don't think there's a lot of value to be gained from killing a lifelong leader in his mid-80s, frankly. I don't think you're going to do much, right? He was just going to die of natural causes pretty soon anyway. What this has done is stirred up a ton of anti-American sentiment, not just among Iran, but in the fallout that we've caused by spiking the cost of oil among the whole world. We've given everyone an unnecessary reason to hate the U.S., and the U.S. has complicated a bunch of things. And within Iran, which is very radicalized, very theological, they now have a new a cause to throw into this new leader, who seems to be his frankly unimpressive son. But now he can claim he's avenging his father. It gives him a lot of legitimacy. Dictatorship is not okay. This has just made a dictatorship worse. Everything that this article said about people who knew him, this guy is worse. He's stupid and more radical. He's also corrupt. He just has a massive business empire of luxury properties. There have been sanctions, and he's still just been profiting off of this. So it's basically like a Jared Kushner situation, where he's just like stupid and corrupt and profiteering. But also this dude is like a religious extremist who wants to destabilize the region, and has oppressive domestic objectives. So, yeah, this is going to make the economy worse for like everyone. There's talks of a draft, and we just now, like of a regime of a person about to die of old age anyway. We've now just put in power a young guy who could reign for another what, like 40 to 60 years. Um, and he now kind of has a cause. Like he has some support. It does not seem like he had any support. He was not the top pick among either the U.S. or even among Iran. But he's the guy that's left, so he's the guy they're getting. So that's just a master stroke, really. Uh, we'll see where that goes. It's not going to go anywhere good. I mean, this is going to cause a backslide of civil rights in the region. Um, it's given more cause to a people to double down on what made them bad in the first place. And once again, I will make no defense for the Iranian regime, but in pursuit of the goal I hope we all agree on, that the Iranian regime is bad, and we should get rid of it. This is a backslide. This is a backstep in progress. Or we can get rid of him too and keep getting rid of them left and right. Okay, that costs money. That costs lives. And it doesn't fix it. Like, they're just going to keep replacing them. Systemically, you've not solved the problem. You've given more credence to the antagonism towards the U.S. Like, how many of your neighbors do I have to unalive before you decide to be my best friend? Like, wouldn't you just kind of hate me a little more each time? I just seem like more and more of a monster. That's the problem. That's the pattern that these always cause. If you do want like a full regime replacement with something better, which I think we agree is the good positive goal, that requires some positive change from within. You need a natural like local protest movement that can kind of rise up. Like the people need to want it, and then those are the people who are in charge or should be in charge or who should be supported. But this external thing is just not going to work. Thank you for the J's. Yeah, like there's just like, so there's this nepotism complaint that now this guy just gets to circumvent. Hmm. Hmm. Are the lives restricted? That's not the most surprising thing, but yeah, I'm just reading a news article, and denouncing an extremist dictator, but it is what it is. So, oh boy, yeah. So there's Iran with its nepo baby tyrant, who we will be seeing a lot of in our lifetimes through the news. Sorry, that's kind of it. This is pretty straightforward. Anything anyone knows about this guy, he's not impressive. He does not have a big track record, but he's just like really bigoted and kind of insane. So that's the future for Iran. Something else I want to talk about. How's oil doing? Are your cars filled up? I hope so. Because it's getting more expensive, and it's going to keep getting more expensive for a bit here. Oil prices soar past $110, while Dow futures sink 1,000 points as Iran war spirals into worst-case fears in USI's Special Forces mission. This is from Fortune. Let's give it a read, and then we'll talk about it. Just over a week into the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, Wall Street has started to price in a prolonged conflict, as hopes for a swift endgame have been crushed. With no signs of de-escalation, both sides are instead upping the ante, expanding targets to critical infrastructure, and risking greater retaliation in the process. U.S. oil futures shot up 24.6% to $113.30 a barrel, and Brent crude gained 23.4% to $114.38. Over the weekend, President Donald Trump downplayed the possibility of releasing oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to ease price pressure. We're going to come back to this. Short-term oil prices, which will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over, is a very small price to pay for USA and world safety and peace, he posted on Truth Social on Sunday. We'll get back to that too, because that is a lie. Prices at the gas pump are likely to top $4 a gallon now that oil has surged past $100 a barrel for the first time since 2022. Patrick Dehaan, head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy, said on X that the odds of reaching that threshold in the next month are now 80%. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average crashed 1,011 points, or 2.13%. Sorry, I had to sneeze. S&P 500 futures were down 2.01%, and NASDAQ futures lost 2.31%. Gold dipped 1.3% to $5,029 per ounce, and silver fell 2.1% to $82.50. The yield on the 10-year Treasury spiked 6.6 basis points to 4.198% on expectations of hotter inflation. The US dollar was up 0.83% against the euro and was up to 0.60% against the yen. The war's rapid spiral into greater levels of peril stoked fears that multiple worst-case scenarios could be realized. The Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed, fulfilling a, quote, nightmare that has been feared for decades. With top oil producers in the Persian Gulf unable to export their crude, they have started to pump less as storage capacity has already filled up. Iraq's output has now collapsed 60%. That's worse than I thought, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Bahrain and Iran also said their desalination plants were attacked, threatening water in the Mideast, where some countries get 90% of their supplies by processing seawater. The region is so reliant on desalination that prior intelligence assessments warned damage to the infrastructure could force evacuations from parched cities. Meanwhile, the US and Israel attacked an oil depot in Tehran, obliterating supplies used by civilians and the military. Smoke covered the city, while acid rain and oily rain fell. Iran's missiles and drones have also targeted oil and civilian infrastructure around the Gulf. The Pentagon confirmed the death of a 7th U.S. service member in the war. Its sources told Bloomberg that Trump is contemplating a special forces mission where troops would enter Iran to seize near bomb-grade uranium that could be used in a nuclear weapon. So they don't have nuclear weapons. More countries could also get involved in the war. Gulf states have reportedly warned Tehran that continued attacks on them could result in direct action against Iran. Turkey may send fighters to northern Cyprus, and Russia has been feeding intelligence to Iran on U.S. military assets in the region. Iran has remained defiant and announced Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, will become the next supreme leader after his father was killed last weekend. Days earlier, Trump rejected him as a possibility. But they got a Nepo baby tyrant. Khamenei's son is unacceptable to me, he told Axios. We want someone that will bring harmony and peace to Iran. Well, you're not going to bring harmony and peace to Iran by killing any sense of order, however evil they have now. It's just bringing in a more chaotic evil. Iran's choice for its new supreme leader is seen as a sign that the regime's hardliners are in control and poised to resist any compromise with the U.S. When asked in the Oval Office last week for the worst-case scenario in Iran, Trump replied, I guess the worst case would be we do this and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. It's already happened, and the son is worse. He's a stupid radical by comparison. So, that article is from Fortune by Jason Ma. We are now going to go through this again and analyze some of the stuff we've seen in here. All right. So first, the cost of oil is skyrocketing. Now, a lot of people don't think they really care about politics or don't have to care about politics. They don't do politics, but politics is doing them. Oil going up is going to cause ripples through the stock market, and it also ups the cost of gas at the pump, which affects any American who needs to drive anywhere. And if you can't drive as much on average, and people cut back on the driving a little bit, spend more money on gas, working class Americans and middle class Americans are going to spend less everywhere else because more of your budget is going towards gas. And if you have to spend too much on gas, you're going to be a little less likely to drive, which means you're going to be a little less likely to go to local stores and restaurants. So this ends up hurting through a domino effect your local town in America and your local small businesses. It sucks. It's bad. This is how economies go bad. Line go down. And we're already seeing a massive surge in the stock market, and it's confusing because no one knows what's going to happen. Uber drivers, part-time Uber drivers. I'm so sorry. This is chaos. This is a mess. That affects people who really can't afford to mess around with gas. And it's going to cause global ripples that will come around to you. As far as shortage of oil, so it's supply and demand, right? The lesser the supply, the higher the price, or the more the demand, the higher the price. You have more supply, price goes down because demand goes down. But there's some interesting things with this. So, prices are going up by about like 25% almost so far, 24.6%, 23.4%. The U.S. does have a strategic petroleum reserve. So we have a bunch of spare oil that we've like saved, right? We have extra gas we're just sitting on. It's locked up somewhere safe. And then we can add more supply to lower demand and lower price. It's just in case. We have it saved for a rainy day. So that way we can like just, put that out into the market. Prices go down a little bit. It's for emergencies. Like it's a rainy day fund. We don't have a huge reserve left. Joe Biden did a good job with keeping the reserve high until prices were super high, like post-COVID. Gas prices were going up because everyone was driving around again. And then Joe Biden did release a lot of our stored petroleum into the market to help ease prices. Because things were expensive in the 2020s. Like, we all know this. So that helped. That was like the right thing to do. Now, the problem is Donald started a war that rapidly, and chaotically affects oil prices before he restocked on oil. So because of just post-COVID inflation, weird economy wave, Joe Biden released a bunch of oil out of our reserves, which helped at the moment, but you're supposed to refill that rainy day fund. Our rainy day fund was low, and then Trump just has thrown the price of oil and gas into chaos. And we don't have a big storage left to put back out. We still have a lot, but we spent a lot of it. It's just really poor planning. Even if you are a neoconservative war hawk and you had the deliberate plan, even if you kept it pretty quiet to yourself, that you wanted to attack other countries and stuff, you wanted to do this kind of thing, you wanted to attack Iran, the smart thing to do, if you had any plan or foresight, you would restock on oil. Venezuela's not enough. Our fund is not refilled. Venezuela's another thing where he tried to do over for oil that was just kind of threw more chaos into it because there wasn't a great need for oil. No one was buying it. He was basically trying to offer it to oil companies who didn't ask him to do that. Biden released the reserve at the same time OPEC cut production. Yeah. It made sense. But it's just a thing that happened. And it sucks, we lose a rainy day fund, basically, of oil. But, But this was a situation, this was a predictable problem to the people who started it that they did not prepare for. And then here's the other interesting thing that is really concerning. Short-term oil prices, denying any responsibility for the state of the present day-to-day lives of average Americans, will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over. What is the Iran nuclear threat? And how do you define when it's over? Seriously, how do you define that nuclear threat and when is it over, right? They're saying oil will be high until this happens. But that's not a real goal because they don't have nukes. They took credit for destroying nuclear weapons last year. Um, is it just overthrowing the government? They already killed the leadership. So it's not nuclear weapons. It's not the specific leaders. What constitutes the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat? Where do you draw that line? So it's concerning. They're saying gas prices will be high until this nebulous, impossible goal is met. They don't have a plan to bring prices down, and they're not using the rest of the reserve that they have. Like they're not going to do that. They have no intention of using the tools within their disposal to fix the problem. They acknowledge they're creating a problem. Are downplaying it is not a big deal. I guess it doesn't affect them if they're super rich and can fly everywhere. Kash Patel is taking the FBI jet to go party and get intoxicated on taxpayer dollars. But yeah, and this does not make the U.S. or the world safe. Several countries in the Middle East have been attacked with missiles. The economic futures of the West are also up in the air because of this. It's dangerous, right? And I'm sure, like anyone keeping up the news, I don't know. I wake up, there's a small worry that what if we got attacked, either by a missile strike or terrorism? I don't know. Um, so I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. The world is getting less safe because of this. And then there's the Dow. Uh, the Dow is up 50,000, and you haven't even said thank you. But let's take a look at the Dow today. All right, this is the Dow over the past month. See if I can get this into frame. This is ridiculous. The Dow is absolutely plummeting. And I want everyone to be able to see it. There we go. Look at that. This is the Dow over the past month. It has just been crumbling and crumbling and crumbling since this started. You can look 5 days ago, and it's just crashed. Over the past day, it just plummeted right in the morning. Then we're kind of back up to like near where we are. But it's just really confusing. No one's sure what to do. The problem with the economics of this, and it's anything really, is it's just math, and you're trying to make like a safe, reasonable bet. And you need predictability to do that. If we can predict something will go well or go poorly, we can deal with either of those situations. It's this chaos that we really don't know. And this gets back into a little bit of what's going on in the region. So let's see. We had it here. Okay, so the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed. Iran lives in the area. They know the area they're in. They know how to make it hurt. Iran has had plenty of time to consider the superior arms of other countries. You know, like Iran is not in a place to 1v1 America, right? It's just not. That's not really the thing to worry about, though. They know their area they're in. They have a dedicated, committed people to it. They may have a terrorist network globally. We don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And they know how to make it hurt for everybody. So they're tackling desalination plants, and they're tackling like straits, like ports. Like they know how to like control the resources and trade. Desalination plants are allowing drinkable water in the region, but when Iran attacked them, that's drinkable water not getting to the region, and it's the Middle East. It's hot and it's dry. That's causing a lot of just civilian deaths. I'm sure a lot of villagers in the Middle East are terrible people, but they probably don't think I have a right to live. But water, when people are getting water, that's putting a lot of human rights pressure to make this stop. The Strait, Hormuz is huge for like shipping and trade. So these places would have oil that they need to put on boats and get out of the Middle East. And how do you do that? How do you do that when the water channel out of the region is shut down? It's controlled. It's dangerous. Like you can't go through there. Um, that's kind of important to the whole region. So with top oil producers in the Persian Gulf unable to export their crude, they have started to pump less as storage capacity has already filled up. Iraq's output has now collapsed 60%. So this is going to start collapsing economies of other nearby areas that have oil. Um, and even though they have oil that they can pump, they're not going to. Like the supply is dwindling, the available supply, because they're just sitting on it. There's no point in pumping for it. Like it's just not worth it. They just can't get it out. It's like sitting in storage. So they're just not going to keep filling up, and they just can't make a delivery. Like I don't know. If you like ordering stuff from Amazon, it's like, what if I just dug a moat full of alligators around the Amazon warehouse? Like the trucks can't get in or out. It's just shutting that down. That's like going to be huge ripples. It's painful. It's painful. Like Iran knows the game they're playing. They know their hand of cards. This is going to just be so bad. The cost of gas is going to go up. The cost of everything else is going to go up. There's no end in sight. There's no clear definition or goals. Um, there is still time for Donald to just declare victory and give up and stop it. But already 7 Americans are dead, and gas has gone up by what, 10% this week? It's painful. Um, awful. People are just dying. A lot of people don't deserve to die. Desalination plants, water, and I wish that the villagers who relied on fresh water, like I wish that was enough of a reason for this to stop, you know? But I know we're in a landscape of terrible people and selfish people and rich people only looking out for their own interests. So that's why it's important to make the argument that like I don't make gas prices go up. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to make a lot of people care. That's what's going to make a lot of people click. And the Dow is down. So let's look at crude oil. It's coming back down. So it has to, right? Everyone's counting on taco. Chickening out. That massive spike was uh, this morning. No one knows what to do. It's going to get faster and more chaotic. This on top of an AI bubble. This on top of everything else. Just some more economic instability. And that's why powder keg that won't take out Donald, but it will take out you and me. And that stinks. But Hunter Biden. Ugh, yeah, highest since the pandemic. But it's fun for no reason. Like this is just geopolitical and economic uh, self-harm. If you don't like this, vote. Vote like our lives depend on it. Please vote against this. Don't let this happen again. In other news, let's see. This is something I'm curious about. Politicians are starting to pay a lot more attention to the plight of white-collar workers. This is from NPC. Rapid advancements in AI have industry and political leaders warning of massive job displacement for white-collar workers. It could reshape U.S. politics. Blue-collar workers have been at the center of political messaging for years. Politicians met with waitresses at a diner to pitch raising the minimum wage,
tour factory to spotlight job growth or tell stories of their families' hardscrabble bona fides while visiting cities like Detroit or Pittsburgh. Lately, though, a different group has been getting more attention: white-collar professionals. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is at the forefront of this development. The Republican governor expressed concern in August that, quote, some of these white-collar jobs could end up being obsolete due to advancements in AI. In September, he said the H-1B visa program was especially galling at a time when AI is forecast to reduce a significant number of white-collar jobs. And in November, he worried about predictions that AI is, quote, going to really undercut a lot of jobs, a lot of white-collar jobs. I don't think that is a good thing, he said, adding, why would we subsidize something that could potentially cause problems for folks? DeSantis. DeSantis' political rise has been based in large part on his ability to see where the puck is going. He positioned himself as an early opponent of COVID regulations, and he was at the forefront of right-wing attacks on trans issues years before President Donald Trump made them part of his closing message in the 2024 campaign. Now he's a leading political voice on AI skepticism, ahead of a looming shift in U.S. politics in which the fears of white-collar workers, a college-educated and increasingly democratic demographic, will be more pronounced. Other officials are sounding the alarm too, including Senators Josh Hawley, Republican from MO. I'm not sure what MO is off the top of my head, I apologize. And Bernie Sanders, Independent, Vermont, as well as California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat. This is a notable development in U.S. politics, which is long centered on the anxieties and grievances of blue-collar workers who for decades, Missouri, yes, thank you, who for decades saw manufacturing jobs dwindle because of trade deals and automation. More recently, these workers helped power Trump's rise and led both parties to reorient their industrial policy, with calls to reshore manufacturing jobs and rebuild the nation's industrial base, becoming central to Republican and Democratic campaigns. Former Rep. Brad Carson, Democrat from Oklahoma, said in an email he fears most political leaders will already be too late by the time they turn attention to the political displacement of white-collar workers. We spent decades watching manufacturing communities hollow out before politicians started paying serious attention, and by then the damage was permanent, said Carson, a former Defense Department official who is now one of the leaders of the super PAC Public First Action, which has called for significant regulation of AI. The difference this time is speed and breadth. White-collar displacement could move much faster and apply much more broadly than deindustrialization did, and these workers vote, donate, and live in swing districts. The political pressure will build quickly. College-educated professionals in suburban districts whose mortgage payments are suddenly at risk are a very different political force than a hollowed-out factory town, he added. The concerns come as AI industry insiders openly say their technology will result in companies eliminating jobs. Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, which built Claude, has predicted AI could increase unemployment by 10 to 20% within the next 5 years, while also eliminating half of all entry-level white-collar jobs. In October, Elon Musk, the world's richest man, whose company xAI developed Grok, said on X that AI and robots will replace all jobs. The same month, Amazon announced 14,000 layoffs in a statement that noted the transformative nature of AI. The following month, Musk said he believed work will be optional within 2 decades. We'll talk about it. We're just going to get to the article. We'll talk about it. A new NBC News poll found that 57% of voters think the risks of AI outweigh the benefits, with a similar share of white and blue-collar workers, as well as managers, expressing the same sentiment. The survey found that 74% of white-collar workers have used AI within the last 2 months, compared to 50% of blue-collar workers. As Commerce Secretary under President Joe Biden, Gina Raimondo became the administration's point person on AI, building relationships within the industry. She told NBC News that the technology will transform every industry, adding that the transition will be brutal. A former governor of Rhode Island, Raimondo recalled when her father lost his job after manufacturing dried up in the state. She said that experience has shaped her views on AI. While she thinks slowing down innovation is a bad idea, if certain demographics get disproportionately hurt, we don't take care of them in this transition, that's going to cause a level of societal, political, and economic disruption that this country can't afford. Policymakers, she said, need to incentivize companies not to engage in mass layoffs and provide transition funding to employees who see their industries dramatically reshaped. Unemployment policy will need to be shifted from being focused on who is unemployed right now to being able to predict who's going to be unemployed in a year or more, she added. Much of this will need to start initially at the state level, where experimentation is easier. What is fascinating to me, she said, is how many policymakers of both parties and AI executives just kind of throw up their hands and they're like, well, what are we going to do? There are already signs of a white collar jobs recession. In November, a record 25% of unemployed workers had 4-year college degrees. And a team of Stanford researchers released a report that found workers between ages 22 and 25 in industries with the most exposure to generative AI experienced a 16% relative decline in employment since late 2022. The U.S. shed 92,000 jobs in February, according to the latest jobs report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, marking the fifth time in 9 months the job market has shrunk. Hawley, the senator from Missouri, said that during a recent trip to Vanderbilt University, he was struck by the college seniors who approached him to express how hard it was to find an entry-level job, noting employers said AI was making such positions unnecessary. Now, how much of that is accurate and how much of that is just an excuse, who knows, he said. But if you look at the unemployment rate for recent college graduates, it is really startlingly high. And when you look at the economy nationwide, you've got to be concerned about the potential for job loss among white collar workers. Hawley doesn't believe leaders in Washington are focusing on this as much as they should be. He pointed to legislation he introduced with Senator Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia, in November to track the number of jobs lost to AI as a first step. We're looking at a massive collapse of the middle class, Hawley said. We simply cannot allow that to happen. It's not all doom and gloom, though, for what AI will do to the white collar job market. A number of economists, tech, and political leaders compared the rise of AI to past advancements that changed work rather than eliminated it. A common example cited is the growth of the internet, which created entire new industries. Meanwhile, others have said the projections by AI industry leaders are being made in part to make the technology seem more impressive to investors. Musk, who has made some of the boldest proclamations, is wrong so frequently that savvy bettors have profited by wagering against his projections. Trump and officials in his administration are among those who have sought to tamp down any panic around AI, the rapid upscale of which is a core piece of Trump's economic agenda. In an interview with NBC News last month, Trump pushed back on concerns that AI would kill jobs. They said the internet was going to do, everything was going to do, robots are going to kill jobs. Everything's going to kill jobs, he said. And you end up, if you're smart, doing great. An Economist/YouGov poll released last month found that 62% of U.S. adults believe AI advances will lead to an overall decrease in jobs, roughly twice the percentage who told an NPR Kaiser Harvard technology survey in 1999 they believed the internet would reduce jobs. Nathan Brand, a Republican strategist, said fears over AI-fueled job losses are misguided. For starters, he said, an increased demand for infrastructure and energy driven by the industry will trigger blue-collar job growth that in turn boosts white-collar jobs. Politically, it's going to ultimately fall back to into those camps of innovation versus no innovation, Brand said. Traditionally, conservatives have been on the side of innovation. Not true. AI's effect on politics is still in its infancy. There aren't clear partisan divides on AI-related issues as leaders find their footing. The biggest issues elected officials have focused on so far are not jobs, but electricity bill hikes tied to the rapid expansion of AI data centers, child safety, and the use of AI in the military. Policymakers have been more focused on issues such as data center related costs because they have a more widespread effect on the job prospects for white collar professionals, Raimondo said. Additionally, with many white collar workers making comfortable wages, it's harder to feel bad for them, she noted. But I do believe that will change. If law firms stop hiring lawyers, or if accounting firms cut their accounting staff in half, she said, you're going to see a change pretty fast. In a new report, Anthropic found that the jobs with the most exposure to AI, and therefore at the greatest risk of AI displacement, including computer programmers, customer service representatives, and financial and investment analysts, among other white-collar professions. Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut, said he has contemplated working on more legislation directly related to the potential job impacts of AI, but is not yet sure of the right approach. There's a lot of well-founded focus on the dangers of AI and weapons or consumer goods, whether it's lack of privacy or arms that may be out of control, Blumenthal said. But this employment challenge may be one that breaks through with everyday Americans, because while the other dangers may seem hypothetical, this one is going to be real. On the campaign trail, competing super PACs backed by the AI industry are starting to pour money into key midterm races, while potential 2028 presidential contenders like DeSantis have contrasted themselves with possible rivals on AI. Alex Boris, a member of the New York State Assembly who is running for Congress in the hotly contested 12th district, said Americans are now learning that no job is safe. Boris is proposing new regulations on the AI industry and is supported and opposed by rival AI-funded super PACs. I don't know that historically, when you have large sudden unemployment, specifically among young people, especially among men, that leads to a more inclusive, progressive, fact-based politics, said Boris, a Democrat. That often leads to a very reactionary politics, and I worry quite a bit about what that might do to our political debate. True, but I think it's falling along different lines. We'll talk about it at the end. Several elected officials who spoke with NBC News said a potential white-collar job displacement could echo the China shock that rattled the blue-collar job market decades ago. In 2001, China entered the World Trade Organization, unleashing a massive surge of imports into the U.S. and spurring manufacturing job losses. That followed a 30-year stretch in which cities and towns, many located in the Rust Belt, saw their manufacturing industries and populations collapse amid increasing globalization and automation. Saikat Chakrabarti, a progressive House candidate running in California's 11th district, said AI industry workers he's spoken with believe the government may need to take equity stakes in these companies to get a better handle on issues like a potential white-collar displacement. We haven't had a situation in the past where automation has come after the highest earning workers first, Chakrabarti said. He noted that the white-collar workforce, concentrated in metropolitan areas, is a politically powerful block of our society. In terms of party identification, white-collar workers lean Democratic by 8 percentage points in the latest NBC News poll, while blue-collar workers tilt Republican by 9 points. For Rep. Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, who represents a district centered in Silicon Valley, it's critical for leaders to unite the anxiety of blue-collar workers and white-collar workers, rather than pit them against each other. The rare Rep. Khanna L. Khanna and Sanders last month appeared at Stanford for a joint town hall on AI policy, where Khanna laid out his AI agenda, which includes a federal jobs guarantee for young Americans and those seeking entry-level jobs. Okay, maybe a little based. In October, Sanders released a report that finding that AI and automation could eliminate roughly 100 million blue and white-collar jobs over the next decade. The threat to jobs are no longer just blue-collar jobs, said Khanna, potential 2028 presidential candidate. It's also white-collar jobs, and that creates a coalition that can appeal to factory towns, rural America, and suburban towns, as well as urban centers. Hawley, another 2028 potential candidate, has for years positioned himself in the Senate Republican caucus as an outlier on economic policy. He said a lesson leaders need to take from the breakdown of American manufacturing jobs decades ago and apply to the coming potential white-collar job displacement is that the importance of good-paying work cannot ever be lost or taken for granted. What we learned out of that is job displacement destroys entire communities, he added. It destroys families. It destroys the fabric of the country. Work is absolutely vital. People have to be able to get good paying work on which they can raise a family. We've got to put that at the center of our AI policy. Take a breath, and then we're going to go through and analyze this. Isn't literacy fun? Imagine if we didn't know how to read and think, all these horrors would not haunt us every night. Alas, we can comprehend. This is a dangerous topic, that is not yet politicized by mainstream parties. It soon will be. And when it is, it's going to be bad. Bad, 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 bad. I am an internet girl. I've been terminally online since like middle school. I remember early YouTube, on viral videos, Charlie's Unicorn, Neil Sugiura. Like, I've been around, I see the culture, I saw the rise of Gamergate, I saw the rise of the alt-right. Like, I've just been watching this happen and been like, oh, okay, so here's another slow-moving train, all right, that's coming for us. AI is incredibly unpopular among like average working people. You've probably seen this. You probably hold anti-AI opinions. If you're watching the stream, you probably have friends and peers who are anti-AI. The more you know about it, the worse it is. The people who like it are like tech bros, and like maybe like your boomer parents or grandparents who don't know what it is. That's it among normal people. Then in the like investor, like super rich, the Epstein class, like the elites. Um, there is a huge incentive to invest in AI, and our whole economy right now is just a sloppy makeout session between like the different component companies of the AI production, right? So you have like graphics cards and like the OpenAI, like all these companies are just passing money back and forth to each other with massive constructs, anticipating a future massive demand that's not there. There's not that profit to be made because among actual customers, consumers, um, we don't have jobs coming in. This is a threat to jobs. This is a threat to money. It's personal. Um, and it's reducing, not improving, the ability to purchase these very products that there really isn't a need for. Even like all the commercials for AI, it's just a toy. They're banking on everyone buying a toy. And I know as someone with a background in like game design in that industry, some people like toys and games. That's cool. Everybody is not going to be into your toy or game. And once they do, that's kind of a one-time thing. You can make a subscription, but people just doing something for entertainment purposes and for dopamine, um, you can only hold on stuff for so long. And then people get bored and they move on. If you're looking at something in the entertainment slot, like they'll move on to other shows, other games, other toys. Like generative AI and imagery, I played around with it when the tools were new and it was not widely known. Like, how does these really work? The models weren't good enough to like just really just blatantly plagiarize. They weren't as trained. It was more novel. We didn't really know about the consequences. Like, this was, a couple of years ago. Like, I was an early adopter of stuff. I'm very online. I like tech. I keep up with that stuff. It's a different landscape now. Um, so we have this K-shaped economy that's like tearing in half over this AI stuff. And everyone's really underestimating how much like middle class, white collar young people don't like AI. Blue collar working class people, I don't see AI actually on track to replace many blue collar jobs because the computers don't have hands. Like maybe Boston Dynamics can make some robots and stuff, but like that's not widely available technology. And just like the potential of someone dropping something, like I don't know. It's better to have people there. Like physical labor is increasing in value because of this, probably. It may replace some jobs, absolutely, but like a lot of it is just like computer-based jobs. Oh, that's a good question. Why would you let fascists control one of the most important innovations? Why just like see fascists? And that's the problem, right? Because for decades, Chuck Schumer has led an effort to realign the political parties in the United States. So to be middle class, to be college educated, is to be a Democrat. Even back in the 90s, it'd be very common to find like snooty, like middle class suburban, like Republicans who are like, actually, and then you have a selfish position on taxes. Um, uh, these days, though, like if someone is smart, they tend to be liberal, and if they're not smart, they tend to be conservative. Um, this means that lots of those white collar jobs that AI can target, the middle, is coming to the Democratic base. Lots of like the MAGA people, they who just like work in the shop in the local town, are less likely to be replaced. At least they're not high up on the priority targets list. And then the part of the Republican base that is like the super rich Epstein elite, they just don't care anyway because they don't work for a living. So the top is for it. The bottom doesn't really care.
It's kind of like a fun toy. Um, and then the left, like the middle class, is what's really getting brutalized here. So what that's going to do is cause a domino effect of how this will politicize and metastasize. Lots of politicians in power are older. They're not very online. They're really slow to the uptake on this. Um, but the Democratic Party is going to become the anti-AI party, and the Republican Party is going to become the. Oh, sorry, my mic was bad. Shoot. The Democratic Party is going to become the anti-AI party, and then the Republican Party is going to become the pro-AI party. Not only in spite of the pain it causes, but because of the pain it causes. Um, yeah, a lot of blue collar work is designed around the human form. It's not the most efficient. Yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah, like blue collar systems are built around the human body. Uh, yeah, so we're gonna see a major kind of class divide. Like this will hit metropolitan areas harder, much harder. Um, I do still see this like wave of populism we've seen since the 2015 primaries for the 2016 election. Um, that populism is still around and has still not really had much of a voice. They tried to find it in Bernie Sanders. He didn't win. They tried to find it in Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not your best friend, little populist for the little guy, please. But a lot of people believe that. And they've really messed around and found out. But that wave of kind of like angst and the cry for help from working people it's now expanding into the middle class, and it's only getting worse. And it's only getting worse as the K-shaped economy draws in quarters every white person with a college degree. Hello. Um, so that's going to be a problem, and I'm really worried. The first like breakout candidate in the 2028 election cycle, who can really capture like everybody's concerns, is going to be the first one to jump on this populism, and it can come from either party at this point. We're in the midst of a major realignment, and it's kind of just like a first to grab it kind of thing, because Donald Trump is old and dying, and Democrats don't really have a plan, but their last plan failed. Republicans don't really know how to go from here because they were a cult of personality for the past decade. The first person to say, one, fuck Israel, and two, let's stop AI, is going to win the next presidential election. If you want that Obama style, like just resonates with people nationwide, is they need a clear message around those things. Like unironically, like America first was a good idea, and I think frankly that language, even that like catchphrase America first, anyone could just take and grab. I don't care if it's a dorky 50-year-old white wrinkled little moderate liberal from like the Northeast. I don't care if it's AOC. It could be anyone. Like just say, "Hey, America first," by the way. And then just start putting like actual restrictions or bans on like AI, support for Israel, and maybe like restrictions on H-1B visas is going to have a groundswell of support, and it's going to get dangerous. It's going to get anti-intellectual, anti-tech, anti-immigrant, but economically, the cries for help are only turning up, and I don't know. I mean, like, it's we need some regulations fast. But currently, everything we've seen on tech of just like add age verification is out of touch. I do understand like a lot of parents don't want their kids to be like groomed on social media sites or whatever or chat rooms. That's fair, but like that's a problem we should have solved in like the 90s. Okay, so like they're just getting around to that now. Um, AI is not going to be stopped in time, and it's going to be so obvious and so bad that what we're going to need is probably something In like, is it? I think it's New Jersey. I may be wrong. Like you don't pump your own gas. Like there's actual laws like, hey, we're going to just straight up require like a person needs to pump your gas. So it just creates a job. It's artificial. It's like more efficient if you just do it yourself. But like that's a way they've like put in like a weird arbitrary law just to create a new type of job. Um, if we can't just straight up ban AI in spite of the free market will just want to make this and have this, but that might be too optimistic. We are going to need to limit it. I think, like, as someone who with a background in design and tech, um, I've actually done like full like college like level, very involved like research based, not only the tech of like developing AI, but on the design angle of it. How do we deal with ethical concerns, and how do we mitigate all of that and account for the different ways it could go wrong and make sure it doesn't turn evil? Um, I think we are going to need some limitations. And this is really gonna suck because I think AI using a little bit here and there, was I don't know. I've used it in the past. Like I'll just be honest about that. It's fun. It's cool to be like, oh, generate this a picture of this or like a description of this. I don't think that's super malicious in itself, but it's just the environmental impact is so great. Like these externalities are where government's supposed to step in. And I'm sorry, this really sucks. I think AI will need to be limited from use by the general public. It will need to be limited to people with a specific license for it, or specific like qualification, or specific training for it. Like in New Jersey, you don't pump your own gas, right? So we would create like a limited industry of like I am an AI operator, and that's like a person you could pay, and they would do it for you, right? Like they would be qualified to. So that would drastically reduce usage. It would put a person intermediary who could get paid. And it would stop the like we can't have everyone clicking the AI button at once. It's going to heat up this planet. It's like it's just dangerous. It's bad. Um, and that would also curb some of the demand because having to go through a person would be boring and it would suck. Also, we need to deal with like the contents that AI is trained on. So artists and stuff are like really anti AI. They were kind of like the forefront of that movement, like independent online artists, and like multimedia, musicians, writers, visual artists, animators, who is also a very left leaning demographic, like they're creatives. Um, they have had all of their work stolen. All of these AI companies are training on like anything they can have. And I think it's a good change that right now legally in the U.S. it's decided like AI generated work can't be copywritten, which is really good, right? Like that limits like you can't own the exclusive right to it, so you can still sell it, but like it's not guaranteed. It's not an IP you own if it comes from AI. That's really good at like decreasing the incentive to use AI and rely on AI a ton. You can still profit off of it, but I do think there should be more help for artists and creatives and anyone whose work or likeness would in any way be used as AI training data. You should have control of your data. You should be able to sell it. Everything in our modern like media ecosystem, like all of our data is tracked and scraped and stolen. Frankly believe if we had the ability to consent to all of that, we would even sell our own data willingly. You would have people who full time volunteer, like the training AI kind of stuff. It was just like, hey, you can like do body scans of me. I'll do a funny little dance for you. Like people would happily like let themselves be training data, and then I think we'd have that class of artists. So if AI models needed to be trained on not only like a just general, we took everything from the internet, right? But if AI models needed to have exclusive, limited, like opt-in data training, artists could license a pack of their art as training data, right? Like so it has some built-in metadata, like kind of thing, approval, like that. I think that would be interesting. Like I think that could work for a lot of artists. That would suck. It'd be weird, right? But like a single artist can take commissions, and they can only take like maybe like 3 to 5 max at a time, and then it takes like a couple of weeks to get them all done and get them out, maybe longer. Um, and I think it could frankly help independent artists sell more and reach a wider audience if instead of selling manual independent commissions, um, if they could like have a pack of all their art like, in their art style and be like, hey, this I have a license for this you can buy for use. Like you can give my art pack to your AI, and it will so you can make art in my style, like limited to certain kinds of art, like no, not safe for work stuff or whatever. If you do, you like invalidate the license. I could sue you. You have to take it down. Like just licensing for AI training could be a clever way to help, and it would lower the individual value of a piece of art or an art commission, but it would still create value and create such a wider market demand that an individual artist who would normally be commissioning to a handful of people, or maybe just one at a time, could reach a wider market at like a lower price per. So stuff like that. But that would require like AI models need consensual training data. Like these would need to be packed, your license, have the metadata. I know Google with their AI system is like baking in watermarks and stuff. Like it's a good way to kind of like guarantee what's information, what's misinformation. There is so much smarter AI regulation we really, really need. My big political fear is that some populist-leaning Republicans making a bid for control of the party, who are funded by AI companies through super PACs, are trying to just dominate this conversation, and they're going to get power by speaking to populist fears against AI job loss. That might help if they could just steal the card from Democrats. Like, they'd be brutal. But even if they say pro AI, either way, whether they say they're for or against it, whether they say they're for working Americans or not, they are going to let AI run loose and run rampant. They have no plan to deal with the job loss. They're too rich to care about that. Or if they do, it'll just be some like really prehistoric, regressive like ban on AI wholesale in certain areas, while letting it run loose and rampant in others. Like Grok right now, Elon Musk's weird thing, is being used to generate sexual abuse material of children and non-consenting women all of the time. Like, this has been reported on. It's bad. It is so bad. But there's no regulations to keep up with that. And that's like the conservative vision. Elon Musk was working for the Trump administration last year. Like, that is the conservative vision for AI. And that is horrific. I think we need some value to information and truth. I think we need some value to creative work that goes into it. And that's something that the free market alone will not have. But with some regulations, I think pretty reasonable regulations could mix into like a fairly free market system and not destroy us all. But I'm really, really worried about this. As this gets politicized, the pro AI side is going to have a lot of fun, and because it's unregulated, it's just going to blast information out. Like, keep an eye on social media through the primaries right now into the midterms this year. This is a test drive. Imagine in 2 years what looking at social media posts with further developed AI systems running loose will look like. What levels of like misinformation and like botted content flooding is going to happen in every comment section. But yeah. Also, like, just our system is obviously lopsided, and the educated and middle class get a lot more attention. When there was that really long government shutdown, this is really unfortunate, and it sucks. It was not food stamps cutting out that made everyone rush to act, made the Democrats rush to act. It was starting to hit the airlines, and there's starting to be airline delays because the airline workers weren't there. Then everyone immediately rushed as soon as it bothered middle-class white-collar people. But even now, it's enough of a weird split among white-collar people, because I think most middle-class people are like kind of against AI right now, but there's that sub-faction of very loud tech bros, and then the investor class above them who are still for it. And it's kind of just like the wealthiest voice in the room gets to dictate what the policy is. I think Ro Khanna made a really good point by saying if we could connect blue collar angst and white collar angst about this, we could win, which is true, but I don't think there is any significant blue collar opposition to job loss from AI. If anything, there will be a relishing in the way that AI is taking white collar educated liberals' jobs and a like, see how do you like it now kind of thing, rather than empathy or unity. I think Ro Khanna and the like progressive populist left on this one is really banking hard and incorrectly on this, like the working class white man and the middle class white man could just make a populist left party, and I think they're just gonna trip and botch it. because they're going to find out, as we have many times before, um, they're not actually voting for like out of authentically out of an economic pain. It's more so out of like a bigoted bias, and they're still going to rush towards the most conservative option on the table. Yeah, there's lots of monotonous work that I would love AI to replace. Um, Another big swing policy idea to run on to deal with the AI problem is universal basic income. I think now is a good time to do that. In the same way that like Medicare for all was a good thing to run on at the time. We still didn't get that, but universal basic income kind of helps in general. But UBI actually isn't popular, and that runs into another problem where like why this AI thing is such a quagmire that's hard to politicize is America is built not only on a sense of modern capitalism of chase the value where the value is and AI has value so it's therefore good, but America is also fundamentally built on this fetishization of hard work and rewards of it, um, which is a huge problem. Uh, I mean, it goes back all the way to the Pilgrims and this kind of like just world fallacy. This of harder workers are even Trump said this in this article. Harder workers are rewarded, and then they'll be fine. You know, if you're smart and yeah, if you end up if you're smart doing great, like it's fine. That's a problem because AI is not in any way correlating value to work, but it's weird. So people don't like UBI because UBI feels like a handout, even to people who need it, who would benefit from it. Like there are poor people in like deep South towns that have like had industry burned out of them decades ago, and have like horrible drug problems just scraping by, and they hate the idea of UBI in any welfare system because they feel like it's going to undeserving people, and they consider themselves more deserving people, but they themselves will not do it because they take some sense of pride in like an image of hard work. I think it's unfair. So like UBI feels like a handout. People would rather have a politician say, "I'm going to create jobs," rather than "I'm just going to give you money," even though it'd be easier and more guaranteed. Um, and that's it's morally like neutral, I guess. Like there's some good and bad to that. Um, I don't think it's good to shame people for that. Like it's we like having a sense of purpose, and AI is an existential threat to that, and UBI is an existential threat to that. The idea that you would just get to be, while a relief for many, is also an existential horror for some. That's a big rant on AI. It's not the first, nor will it be the last. But yeah, this is the battleground of the future. The United States has given up pretty much on any conversation about combating global warming and protecting the environment. There are several issues that we've just given up on, cybersecurity. But what to do about AI as it comes slowly crashing into jobs and how will that fall on political lines is a big one. All right, let's see. Cybersecurity is hard. Lots of this stuff is really hard. Even like abundance liberals, um, even abundance liberals are at the point where we need to realize like here's a complicated thing about being anywhere on the left. Um, the interests of environmentalism and labor, like workers' unions, clash very directly. That is a hard thing to rectify. Thank you for the heart, Colin. Um, it's a really, really hard thing to balance. Uh, so the problem with that is like you have situations like that. Like that's where you have the abundance liberalism, right? There's a slowdown. We need jobs. We want money. We want things to build up faster. To do that, you have to cut red tape and you have to cut like the need to make sure we're monitoring the environmental impact of this before we do it. Like you cut all that reporting. Those are the steps that are slowing things down that we're cutting out. Um, Industrialization, fast industrialization, which means jobs for everybody, which is really easy. Let the workers unionize and do whatever they want. Gives enough power to just say like screw the environment. That's not the priority, right? Like if you have a bunch of loggers, they're gonna cut down the forest, and it's a really hard thing to balance. And that like balancing the scales in like a liberal coalition is always very 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 difficult. And we've seen this fracture among the Democratic Party in our lifetime. All those blue collar workers went to MAGA. So as much as leftists talk about like, oh, the working class and all that, and like communism, um, they don't realize that the people saying that, like, oh, we should need communism, right? The workers come together. Um, a lot of them are suburban white kids who are middle class and do care about things like the environment, right? The sense of like, oh, let's just do good across all categories, including like, racial justice. But labor can sometimes clash up against other interests. And it's just like, it's a macro system. You got to balance all these things. So environmental concerns are an obstacle to just getting our jobs and doing whatever you want. Like China really did a great job industrializing. Lots of cut corners on environmental regulation and worker safety. That's just like how you have to do that. You have to pick one. You can have it cheap, fast, or good. Pick two of the three. Um, uh, Really pro workers, pro job stuff, like does end up antagonistic to H-1 visas, the H-1B visas, and like having workers in other countries, right, offshoring, and leads to lots of racial antagonism. And there's this dangerous game where on the left, uh, caring about something like the environment, right, is very data driven and is a lower priority to you if you are in fact a like blue collar worker who's never gone to college and like taken any class on like environmental science, but you do need like a job and you don't want the factory to be delayed by an environmental impact report or this factory will pollute too much, we're not going to have it. So that's a really weird thing, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Liberalism is hard, and the abundance direction is kind of the left consenting to saying, "Fuck it, we need to put jobs first," and the environment's just going to suffer for a while. That's true. Yeah, China is now like pivoting like green energy. Yeah, China's all over. One of the cool ways, like the few ways where you can have those interests align, is Joe Biden passed all that really great infrastructure legislation, and there was never a Green New Deal that passed or got anywhere. But Joe Biden invested a lot into like, hey, we're gonna build like chargers for electric vehicles, and also we're gonna build lots of like solar panels and stuff. Like we're gonna build lots of green energy infrastructure, right? Having factories and stuff like instead of mining for coal, have the people who would just be coal miners work in a factory building solar panels. That is how you get those groups on the same page. That is like one of the few ways you can thread that needle, and that's great. And we should have more of that. Unfortunately, all that stuff has since been cut. So there are lots of workers who literally had jobs building green energy infrastructure funded by Biden's plans that Donald has cut. And those people lost their jobs, even though they voted for Trump to own the libs and didn't realize they were killing their own jobs very directly, which is stupid. Jobs are not going to keep humans alive. Well, yeah, the jobs will keep you alive for the short term and not the long term. Yeah, saving species and ecodiversity will. That's true. I'm also really shocked that like green energy, like oil and stuff, didn't get flipped on the opposite lines. So like here's a weird thing to me. I don't understand why the right remains so war hawkish and pro oil, and the left is the party of clean energy. Because yeah, like the oil reliance is reliance on the Middle East, and you run out of it in the future. If I wanted to secure the economy in favor of just my country and screw everybody else, and I wanted to just protect my family, kind of thing, and like my future generations, I would want to jump on green energy. I would be making the argument every opportunity I could that securing like a green energy dominance is like a free market that like we had the opportunity, frankly, the priority opportunity to just seize. We had the initiative on that and just develop that and then become like the leaders in a new industry. And then because the right wants to drive truck. No truck to no materialism. Yeah. And then also like they could just say like, hey, like we're dominating this industry, and also like this is about becoming more independent, and I'm doing this for my kids, like I feel like it's so infeasible to rely on oil that we know is going to run out, right? Like we know it's gonna run out. I don't know, I feel like that's a weird one how that played out, but it means these things can fall in weird ways. Similarly, I think AI is going to fall into a similar reductive, like pro versus anti thing on party lines. And it's going to be very inane. There can be good uses for AI, like in medicine. Yeah, China took over. Like the U.S. had that opportunity, and then because of Donald, botched it, and now China has taken over, and they're producing a ton of energy. If you produce like enough green energy, which you can do, you can literally not only get free electricity, but you can get paid for your electricity. You can have surplus electricity, which would be so insanely good. That'd be incredible. It'd be ridiculous. You can sell to other countries, exactly, which means more market dominance for you, more dependence of everyone else onto you. So you do it fast enough, why would they bother making their own industry for this stuff when they can just buy it from you? Some countries have done it, but yeah. So, green energy is a really unfortunate one we've just let slip. And if you have enough of an advantage, it does start paying for itself, literally, and other people pay you for it, and that could be used to fund other stuff. Now that we don't have that and we've given up entirely on any environmental protections, we're so far behind, it's not really worth it. And then there's this kind of, we failed a prisoner's dilemma, basically. And now even the left is saying, screw it, let's just do jobs. Like, if you asked in 2008, like, what are the big political issues you should vote on for the economy, especially 2012, what big political issues would you vote on? It would be, like, the environment. You would have global warming was, like, one of the top 5, like, in every political debate. That was one of the things. It's not anymore. We focused on maintaining global economic dominance, but not really, in a very short-term sense. Let's see, any other stories? This was a headline that crossed my feed that I thought was very interesting. Ken Martin's dysfunctional DNC alarms Democrats. Let's see what the DNC is up to. Democratic National Committee Chair Ken Martin is facing a growing crisis of confidence within his party. More than 24 Democrats tell Axios. Donors, operatives, and some DNC members are questioning his leadership, fundraising ability, and handling of the party's still secret autopsy of the 2024 election loss. Why it matters: the DNC's dysfunction likely won't affect this year's midterms, and Democrats have overperformed in recent elections, but it could have huge consequences for the party's ability to meet the challenges of the 2028 presidential race. The DNC will play a crucial role in organizing Democrats' 2028 primary and in building the infrastructure for the party's next presidential nominee. But the DNC has been in a perpetual state of near insolvency, mired by internal finger-pointing since the 2024 election, and Martin hasn't been able to fix the problems. It's not just the usual DNC critics. Martin's allies and would-be allies who want him to succeed say they're increasingly worried and believe he hasn't created space for candid feedback and course correction. Zoom in. Democratic sources tell Axios that Martin has shown a thin skin and that he personalizes criticism in a way that can be self-defeating. Many DNC officials, donors, and other Democrats believe honest feedback would be greeted with hostility. 13 months into his tenure as DNC chair, the limelight and the criticism that has come with it appear to have taken a toll on Martin, who often seems melancholy and put upon, his allies told Axios. There has also been internal frustration about Martin's reliance on longtime allies from Minnesota, whom some insiders refer to as the Minnesota Mafia. Some Democrats say Martin hasn't grown to trust many people in the DNC office and has become more insular in recent months. National Democrats also say Martin has a habit of overpromising and underdelivering. Martin frustrated many party leaders last fall by promising much more money to Virginia and New Jersey for their elections than the party was able to afford. While the party made historic investments, the exaggerated commitments annoyed many national Democrats. As recently as January, Martin was still privately pushing the idea of a midterm Democratic convention, despite being advised that he was committing money the party didn't have. The DNC recently canceled its midterm convention plans. Martin told those inside the DNC this wasn't because of the expected costs, because state parties wanted to focus on this year's primaries instead. Zoom out. Many Democrats agree on one thing. The DNC chair's first priority is fundraising, and Martin is falling short on that. The DNC has teetered on the edge of insolvency during the past year. It has about $15 million cash on hand, but is more than $17 million in debt. Last October, the DNC took out $15 million in loans to keep the committee afloat. Leaders privately have discussed the possibility of limited layoffs in the coming months. A DNC official told Axios the committee has no plans for staff layoffs. Some Democrats have bristled at Martin's media-heavy schedule while the party is struggling financially. Several donors told Axios they met with Martin or had a call with him early in his tenure, but haven't heard from him since. Would-be allies say Martin has held a grudge against donors who opposed him in the race for chair last year. One donor who didn't support Martin in the race put it bluntly: "He needs all of us, and he's not asking us to do anything." What they're saying: DNC spokesperson Mia Ehrenberg said Martin has invested early and aggressively in the Democratic Party's infrastructure. Winning now in 2028 and for years to come is the DNC's North Star. Anything else is just gossip and noise. Reality check. It's always difficult for a party chair to raise money in the first year after the party loses the White House, as Democrats did in 2016 and 2024. Martin had good fundraising initially, but he's been burdened by a $20 million plus debt from Kamala Harris's campaign. Donors and activists remain angry about Donald Trump's return to the presidency, and the DNC is often a convenient punching bag. Many of the party stars who may run for president in 2028 haven't been as helpful as they could, despite requests to do more. Several other groups in the Democratic ecosystem also have struggled with fundraising since the 2024 election because of some donors' disillusionment. While Martin has many critics, they often have contradictory ideas of what he should or shouldn't be doing. Despite the swipes at Martin's leadership, Democrats have been winning up and down the ballot over the past year. The party has benefited from anger over Trump's policies, and Martin has invested a large amount of money in state parties. The DNC has announced the dates of the 2028 Democratic Convention and is on course to settle its presidential primary calendar in the coming months. The DNC is on track financially to deliver wins this November, in 2028, and for years to come, thanks to strategic and aggressive early investments that are already paying off, said Chris Lowe, co-chair of the DNC's National Finance Committee. The intrigue. Few issues will set off Martin's critics more quickly than his handling of the DNC's autopsy on the 2024 campaign. They say it was a debacle that reflects larger problems with his leadership that need to be addressed before the presidential campaign officially starts next year. Allies advised Martin not to do an autopsy or promise to make the report public, but he did both. Martin entrusted his confidant Paul Rivera with the task despite Rivera's lack of experience on recent presidential campaigns. Some people interviewed for the report said the process felt disorganized and that Rivera appeared to tell people what they wanted to hear when he interviewed them. Many Democratic campaign and super PAC leaders from the 2024 presidential race told Axios they never spoke with Rivera. Late last summer, Rivera's team made hasty attempts to contact some top Democrats before the report's intended release. After repeated delays on one of his signature promises, Martin said in December he wouldn't publish the report, infuriating many Democrats and teams for potential 2028 candidates. It also further alienated some donors. He spent donor money to do the autopsy and then didn't provide it, one told Axios. It's not your money. Between the lines, people briefed on the report told Axios there essentially are two versions: a large Frankenstein monster of documents that includes interviews without any narrative through line, and a shorter, vague document that's similar to what Democrats have said publicly. Martin hiding the document has made it an object of fascination among activists who believe it includes details the DNC is hiding for nefarious purposes. Martin argued in December that releasing the report would result in more finger-pointing and wouldn't help the party move forward. Many of his allies agree. Even now, few people outside of Martin's inner circle have read the autopsy, though he says its recommendations are being implemented. So, good question from chat as we get into this. KWF asks, can you please discuss the establishment versus progressive Dems in the party? So personally, I'm not going to know like everyone's names or whatever. But I will say that paradigm, that kind of like shortcut heuristic that a lot of us have started to sort of build in 2016 kind of onward, is breaking down. We are seeing a really weird party realignment due to a combination of factors. One, 2024 was humbling and caused a lot of people to sort of scramble and consider what their strategy should be. Even if they haven't changed on anything, they've shut up a lot and kind of vague posted where they stand more. Just because they know they're out of touch with the public and they want to step back and get a vibe check, and they're not sure how to reintroduce themselves more clearly. Two, things are changing. Stuff like AI are becoming more dominant topics that would fall along more party lines, or be the next like big political issues. But there aren't yet an existing like rule system for who's the party of what. Three, the Republican Party right now is facing has control of all political narratives right now. They're in the spotlight. They're in power, and they have big internal infighting. They're the one with the big factionalist divide right now between isolationist nationalists, and like neocons. So you have these like populist isolationist nationalists who are actually just Nazis and haters, and lots of poor people, like poor white, just Nazis, like just a white trash demographic. Your Nick Fuentes, what Marjorie Taylor Greene was selling and has since given that up. And you have like the old country club boomer neocons, like let's start wars in the Middle East for oil. It's all about my stock market. That's like a weird divide that's driving things. So that's like sort of done this weird thing with populism, where they've owned it but also disowned it at the same time. And the left doesn't know how to react or define itself in relation to that. And a big case study for this that we've seen on the left is with the Texas Senate primary that just happened with James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett. James Tallarico is a white man preacher who's pretty boring and mild, and he cites his faith as a justification for every decision. These are two Democrats running. He cites his faith as like, what would Jesus do sort of guy. And that includes like, we need some economic reforms that help everyday working class people. So it seems like a centrist appeal. And he's trying to make it bipartisan, and he's trying to also get Republicans to vote for him and independents to vote for him. Even all of his campaign branding is not in blue, but in black and white. And it's like, let's start flipping tables. It's like this Jesus kind of thing. Center stage. Jasmine Crockett is a black woman who is a congresswoman and wants to run for Senate now because her district has been gerrymandered out of existence. So she may as well. And this primary is over. She has a reputation as like a younger generation, media savvy fighter. Like, fuck Trump, fuck the Republicans, fuck all that. She's edgy, very outspoken, very loud. And her theory is, I don't want to compromise and try to get Republican votes or independent votes or run to the center in anything. I believe we just need to really energize the base. And I believe there are lots of people, especially like disenfranchised black voters in Texas and really the whole country, that just need to be like sign up to vote and like get engaged, like the Stacey Abrams kind of thing. Let's just register lots of people, get them involved. And then like I don't want, her whole thing was, I don't want to compromise. I don't want to run to the center on anything. I want to just find more people who are on the left and just haven't voted or haven't engaged. Of those two, one at a glance would assume James Tallarico is the establishment center person and Jasmine Crockett is the progressive populist. However, the opposite is true now. And we're seeing some weirdness, and it could go weird. We are kind of maybe seeing a horseshoe theory, like a third party or a third way, like awful Nazi hybrid fusion could come up. It's unlikely, or that might split into two. You have a really good thing and a really, really bad thing. I don't really know. That can go any direction. But how that would look, James Tallarico is actually more progressive on social issues, but quieter about it in presentation. So it's harder to gauge this differential. Hey, David, thank you for the heart. So it's a complicated kind of breakdown. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, weirdly, has her eye on the ball better than anyone right now on this like shifting landscape. And then you also have like the Democrats, I think, are also realizing and adapting to lots of changes, but they do it very quietly and internally, and they're not very good at messaging any of it. So this is the whole thing about Ken Martin. He's privately probably adapting lots of the Democratic strategy. And that means like not publicly taking a stand on any election. Like they kind of stay out of it and just let the voters decide. So it seems like they're doing less and there's still a punching bag. But it's not on anything they do now. It's on like they've just kind of gone quiet. They've gone radio silent. but that is letting them have until 2028 to figure out where the people do stand and what the new landscape is, and then they're going to jump back in and get on top of that, and amplify it. So yeah, like the divide was you'd have establishment Democrats who were very centrist and compromisey, and very tame and cooperative, and then you have the outspoken, populist, progressive, edgy, I'm not going to compromise or work on anything. We're seeing that invert a little bit. Another example of this is Ro Khanna, who is like a progressive Democrat, but also like had a bipartisan bill on the to release the Epstein files. Ro Khanna was a Democrat who led that, along with Thomas Massie from the Republican side. And that's a weird hybrid, right? We're getting like the more progressive people on the left and the more moderate people on the right. So it's like the leftmost edge of both, but it's jumping over that establishment center, who are kind of refusing to compromise. And as the Texas primary shook out, James Talarico won in a very big way over Jasmine Crockett. And I think it was really healthy. Like everyone was kind of fine with both candidates, but it was like showing what is that divide now? Like what's the strategy? How does that actually look? And then being able to field test that, I think was super, super useful. Yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's a weird way that's fallen. The problem though with this whole thing, where now we're having like progressives who say you have progressive policies, you can market yourself as more moderate or like shut up like less antagonistically, not more. Seems to be working. So AOC might be in trouble. She might be a little too antagonistic on that front. Yeah, you need to be really socially progressive, but really quiet about it. You need to be willing to compromise with people and get voters who have swung the other way. In Maine, in the Senate primary, there is a guy called Graham Plattner who is running as a progressive oyster farmer. And he's trying to do that whole working class kind of thing, like very purely socialist. So that would make him the progressive candidate. However, for all his economic populism, he is socially not progressive. He had a Nazi tattoo he knew about for many years and then lied and played dumb. This is pretty well known. He was very pro-war, and then he's pretended, he's anti-war, but he actually, like, he worked for, what is it? Is it Blackwater or BlackRock? One of them, he was like a mercenary guy. One of them is like a real estate investment, the other is like mercenaries and stuff. Sorry, I forget. I haven't looked at it in a while. But, yeah, Blackwater, yeah. So he pretended that, like, I didn't know what the tattoo meant, whatever. I was just, I got it drunkenly. But then, like, several reports he told people over the years, hey, want to see like, he knew the specific name, like my Totenkopf tattoo, to people. And he talked about it and bragged about it. He was, like, passionate about it. And he wasn't able to get back into the Marines, I think, wasn't able to reenlist because he had the tattoo. It was, like, unknown hates. It was, like, the one glass, like, you're not allowed back in. And then he went back into the Middle East through Blackwater. Like, he did it some more. And I don't know. I have this weird fear he's not. He would be a Fetterman situation if he gets in. But that's, like, a weird edge case. He's still in the running. He's a front runner right now. And I don't know where he stands. And it could just be he is progressive and has changed his mind, but it's more recently than he's told anyone, more recently than he's actually said, or he's an op. And the strategy of market yourself as an economic progressive and then shut up about social issues could mean we could quietly get in really good takes on social issues, or it could mean, like, oops, that means some Nazis could get into the door. So we're seeing, like, a weird realignment of, like, establishment versus progressive liberal, like, which was a very clear thing, into now there's a clear Republican divide, and on the left we're sort of scrambly right now. And you have to break things along different factors. There is, like, social policies, there's economic policies, and then there's style. I think style is a useful third category. We have this kind of, like, tame cooperativeness versus this, like, outspoken, edgy, I'm a fighter kind of thing. Unless people said they wanted a fighter, they want someone to be like, you know, fuck fascists, and like, I'm not going to cooperate on anything. That seems to be losing. So you have to break up those things. I think economic populism versus economic, like, establishment kind of stuff, like more of a neoliberal capitalism, that's a weird thing. Abundance factors into that. I don't know how it's going to break down on party lines, because abundance could just be like, fuck the environmental lobby, go labor, but abundance could also mean do what the free market demands. Let's run the numbers, and then like fuck any like advocacy that would slow that down. Um, so abundance is kind of a weird concept because it can be interpreted in different ways by different groups that can contradict with each other, even though they both use the same essential core word. Um, that's economic policy. Social policy, there's a big divide on whether the party should stay super progressive on everything and count on conservative infighting splitting bigoted votes, or whether the left should socially compromise on things like trans and non-binary rights, on racial justice, on environmental protections. It's like the social dimension. Um, I really think it's stupid to compromise on social rights on any social issues, because anyone who's a hater on social progressivism is voting against you anyway. The people who vote out of social bigotry are not looking into policies anyway. They're just not. They're not reading the news. It's very surface level. It's very basic. Like, if someone's a transphobe, they're a transphobe. Compromising on trans rights isn't going to get you anywhere, except it's going to get more trans people killed. Um, it's just I think it's a fool's errand, because you're not going to outcompete them. You're not going to match them. They're not looking into it anyway. But that's a weird one, but the right has room to pick different stances on that. The right can choose whether they want to be pro-worker, anti-immigrant, or pro-immigrant, anti-worker. That's their weird divide, schism to decide on right now. But yeah, so the left can choose to, should, like, if we compromise on a couple, like, social issue edge cases, like, should we run anti-abortion Democrats in, like, deep red states? Would that move the needle? I don't know, maybe. Should we run, like, I wouldn't compromise on trans rights. Maybe some sports stuff, but you just need to get out of involved in that. Like, it's a sport by sport, have scientists look at it, and have different sports league make regulations on things based on the actual science. I think it's really transphobic and naive to just assume, I don't know, there's such a reductionism to be like, oh, trans women are big and strong and it's not fair, get them out of sports. That's like, you haven't looked into it. There's actually, it totally depends on the sport, the amount of like medical transition. It's more complicated, but people don't really get into that. And so, yeah, that's a complicated thing. People like Gavin Newsom, I think, is just a layperson and has been like, maybe it's not fair, but like, he hasn't looked into it. He doesn't have a developed stance on that yet. So should we compromise on social issues is one dimension of establishment versus progressive. Economically, should we be more of like a market go burr, or pro workers' rights, and unions and like workers' collectives no matter what, is another big divide. That might reach more blue-collar white men, but could have dangerous implications, or just not be good for the economy overall because it limits growth for the sake of like direct pay to like blue-collar workers. Immigrants' rights are workers' rights. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, lots of immigrants are workers, but it's like there's a thing with like H-1B visas where it's like you have lots of workers who fear increased competition over the same jobs. And that's just an ugly one. That's a real ugly one. That's caused some MAGA civil wars and just like slugging it out in fighting. When there's a limited number of jobs, are those jobs being offshored to India, like in the whole tech sector? It's a big problem I've faced. And how do you deal with that, right? And like, I want everyone to have everything. That's a complicated, weird one though. And if you dig into that, like these are the divides you will see, and it's part of why it's hard to maintain a big tent on the left and then just call it the Democrat Party when it represents lots of different, like a coalition of coalitions. Because you will have groups of just, I support like just local workers' rights, let's just unionize. Versus, hey, let's include everybody. But that means like globalism, and some jobs are going to be here, some jobs are not going to be here. Can cause clashes between little industries. So that's like it's another quagmire of a thing, and it requires doing lots of math that I have not done. But yeah. I'm going to make like a cleaner video of this tomorrow probably. I'll like gather some notes. But I think, like the establishment versus progressive conversation we have is gone. And there's like these weird divisions. I want everyone to have good things, and I don't want to have to pick and choose, but like there are some hard calls that might need to be made. And I don't even know what the right way to do that would be. But yeah, sometimes it's like, do one thing to help one person in one way and it hurts another person another way. you can balance the scales and have everyone gain overall. That's like really the goal of like free trade globalism is you do lots of the math and you're like, this seems like it sucks, but like on the macro, like overall, you're just like sliding around lots of beans places and you can make sure, okay, like you lose these jobs in these areas, but your economy improves overall enough that you can have another job in your country, even if it's slightly lower paying because the costs are lower overall and you gain, everyone gains. And yeah, these poorer countries get the shorter end of the stick in a trade deal, but it's better than what they had and will lead to them growing their industries over like a generation or two. It's complicated. And everyone hates it. This was like the Hillary Clinton problem. This was like it was really pinned on Hillary Clinton in 2016. She became the face of this like neoliberal globalist math kind of thing where it's very boring. No one understands it. If you consider any individual person besides like a Silicon Valley tech bro, because America got the tech jobs, like that's who directly benefits from it. It seems to suck for any individual part of the puzzle because it requires lots of patience and math to put together some overall thing. Um, Isolationism is the alternative, and isolationism is a lose-lose over time. Really, it's not really kind. Yeah, like no one explains it well. No one does it well. It's I don't know. You need a degree in that, which I don't have. Um, but yeah, stuff like I don't know. It's like it's a coalition problem right now is what we're seeing, and if America had ranked choice voting, I think we would immediately see a breakdown into several parties. We would see like one or two like social issue focused parties, like a green environmental party. We'd see one issue focused on racial justice. We'd see one party focused on workers' rights that would be more bipartisan economically, but really like not great socially. Then we'd see an even worse one, like a full-on Nazi party of economic far left, social far right. Then we'd see a neocon party that's focused on like interventionism and like economic rights, but might pull in some neoliberals into that like range, and be very ambivalent on social issues. And then we'd see a center right party that's just like super evangelical and insane, but like very specific and using the Bible as a guide on everything, and doesn't really care about economic issues as much. Uh, yeah, why does everyone want to ban ranked choice voting? It's hard. Like and that's another problem too. Is you have stuff like campaign finance reform would be great. Overturning Citizens United would be great. Uh, Having ranked choice voting would be great. These are all things that we need elected politicians to do that backstabs the process that got them elected and holding on to their jobs. If you want to take big swings like that, it takes lots of political capital, and you can only really get people to do that who are like, um, it's like their last term in office, you know. Um, you need the kinds of people who have nothing to lose and can just do it. uh, Even like legalizing gay marriage was another case of an issue where like you could only have a lame duck do that at the time. Just wasn't popular, and it would be unpopular. And anyone who said yes, I'm going to legalize gay marriage is morally correct. I'm gay, but no one would do it. It was considered like political suicide. It's actually Joe Biden who like it's like, hey Obama, like we got 1 year left. You can't run for re-election anyway. I'm old. I'm going to retire. He didn't know he'd be coming back. Screw it, let's just do it. Um, awesome thing. Once it happens, everyone's like, oh, obviously this is better and it's fine. We're not going back. Uh, but you know, no one's gonna take the first step there. Um, so yeah, there's some like weird things like ranked choice voting and election reform. I really want. I went to return United. I don't know. It's I We are at a weird point though where so many politicians are old, and like so many have literally died in office. I hope we get some like massive wave of outgoing people, probably more progressive, like Bernie Sanders types, who can, as a full passing of the torch, just go bonkers and do a few really good things that will shore us up for a generation. Like, frankly, what we need is, I'm considering here, first of all, the Democratic Party is basically hollowed out and dead. The old theory of what it was is gone. Even that establishment progressive divide is gone. It's gone. We don't have a new generation thing yet. We need some crazy outsider to come in 2028 and just win as like a populist who can have like pretty much any politics, can fill the void of the Democratic Party as a shell that's like, free real estate. Who I think needs to go out and not really care what anyone thinks and assume they'll only last for one term and just be like a crazy firebrand. Things like, yeah, like election reform, cracking down on corruption institutionally, changing up how the Supreme Court works. Do all the things that are really unpopular and sort of politically like suicidal, but will work. They only need to work once. But that's, we need to shore things up for a new generation. We need an FDR. We need like major systemic overhaul and reform that we're just not getting. I don't know how that'll work. Things are really hard these days. There's too much money in politics, and that makes change really hard. Some specific criticism of Ken Martin in this article is really interesting to me. You have lots of people complaining that he's not given them more money for elections and things. And yes, he did overpromise. However, the elections in New Jersey and Virginia were still decisive blowout wins. So I think this is a case where like the haters are like, oh, you should do more of this, you should give us more money. Lots of that criticism is not correct. I can see why people made those criticisms. I don't know. I could totally see that. Like, but I think they're wrong to make those criticisms, and it's sort of a survivorship bias thing. We're like, oh, they thought they needed that, but now we have results, and it turns out they don't need that money. And I think that's a place where we can like just spend less money in general on things. Let's see. Lots of critics. It's probably bad to go ahead and get like a post-mortem report on why 2024 went bad and then to not release it. It does seem to kind of anger people. It's probably good though not to show your hand, as long as you are showing your hand to every relevant party inside. I do think there could be some value in leveling with the American people and being honest and like explaining these issues. I think that's good. I worry that just the in-group of higher up Democratic Party leadership and consultants will miss the mark. They probably have findings like, oh, people felt alienated by trans stuff, and then decide like, okay, let's just decide we're anti-trans rights now as a policy matter. When the problem is like the people who vote because they're transphobic, on the basis of that is like their issue, their thing, aren't reading your policy platforms anyway. And so like, even if Democrats won, they'd just be hurting trans people for no reason. That's a case where it would fail, and like leveling with people would get that information. It's just an out of touch issue. I generally think like just by virtue of losing in an election, the party should have fired all leadership and replaced them. They had a theory, they tested it, they were wrong. Clean house, start over. If you lose, change your strategy. Don't repeat the same thing. So I'm glad Ken Martin is doing some different stuff. And I think he's right to just ignore and tune out lots of the criticism for doing different stuff. But it still makes me a little nervous. Yeah, like NFL coach. Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's game theory, actually. It's like tit for tat. If you win, do the same thing. If you lose, you're supposed to change. Like, adapt. Don't repeat a failed theory. Also, that keeps your enemies guessing. Like, I don't understand why Chuck Schumer is still in charge in the Democratic Senate. Like, Chuck Schumer absolutely should have been replaced by new blood. Someone who just has a different theory and just try it until you find one people like. Yeah. But, like, historically, we're echoing the 1930s right now, and we need a new FDR. FDR caused massive changes to the economic system that led to truly a flourishing of the American dream for generations, in a way where like the way technology has just changed and adapted, and the economy on a global scale has changed and adapted, and socially like we've just networked and people flow around more. Like we just need a new, like, everything's gunked up. It's built on the old way. Things have just become inefficient and unable to keep up. We need AI regulation, new like reform to economic rights and the well-being of working class people. That's not popular because they don't have lots of money. They're not going to be big donors, but someone's just gotta do it. And the only person I see willing to rise to that challenge right now is AOC. And I don't know. I don't know. It seems that middle America is just too racist and sexist to let that happen. But she's the only one who has the voice and has some idea of what's going on. And I don't know where else to find like an outsider. That really sucks, huh? Sort of ranting on this one. I might not make a video out of this, but I might recut it later. We'll come back to this tomorrow. Yeah, I'm hoping I can. I'm hoping I can start making videos out of some of these. Is, there was an election in Texas where a YouTuber won. Yeah, because one of the biggest problems the Democratic Party faces right now is messaging, is generationally behind on messaging. I think they need to like stop going to their same like consulting firms, and start going to genuinely like a PR firm or a marketing firm that a YouTuber would hire if they were canceled and wanted to get back into it, or like just for some company who's like, can advertise and isn't hated, like what Duolingo had before they messed it up with AI. Um, yeah, a Republican pro gun guy. Yeah, that'll do it. It's a way different bar. It's a way different ball game, but something like that, like a huge adaptation. And I'm worried that the Democratic Party keeps inefficiently blowing a ton of money onto like consultants who are doing lots of polling and data collection, and then adapting policies based on that. And don't realize like anyone who is informed enough to care about policy at all, they already have as a confirmed voter. And even lots of people who are voting on stuff they approve or disapprove on does not translate to voting patterns. Um, Lots of people can, like, if you ask their opinion for a poll, um, will say that Republicans are bad and Donald Trump is bad, and then vote for them anyway. And this has kept confounding Democrats. But I thought of a framing that makes that make more sense. Have you ever known someone, maybe it's in your family or someone else, right? Picture this: a family member says, "Oh, yeah, Uncle Jack. Yeah, I don't approve of what he's doing. He's kind of hateful. He's kind of crazy. Um, he's kind of rude sometimes. But he's family, and we support him anyway. We love him anyway. We're not gonna abandon him. That sort of thing, right? That's why they keep voting for Trump. They know he's bad. For some, that's the point. For some, that's a known factor that they've accepted anyway. And I can't believe people keep being, yeah, he's unpopular. He's approval rating fell. That means we've got this in the bag, and then rest in their laurels. People can not approve, but they think he's family at this point. They think he's their friend. Have you seen like Republican donation phishing emails? It's insane. A lot of boomers think Donald Trump knows and messages them personally. That's why they have this like ride or die mentality. It's a cult at this point. But it's like someone being catfished. Like they've gotten that buy-in on a personal emotional level, and that's the difference. That's what makes it work. Scary, isn't it? But it's a different ballgame entirely. How that leads, especially because it's a shame thing, and they're targeting people who are like literally because of like poor conditions growing up, like nutritionally and environmentally, like lead, poor areas. Like they're not good at shelving their own ego and stepping back and considering like broader effects on democracy or economics or other people. Like it's just not how people think. It's abstract thinking. That's like higher level thinking, which is usually a class and economic privilege. Like you've been able to develop your brain enough. But if you're just like in your little town, I don't know, you haven't thought that far ahead. You're just thinking about yourself personally. And as far as you're aware, Donald Trump is your best friend. Hey, Corvin, how you doing? Um, I'm about to wrap up stream in a bit here, but yeah. So they think Donald Trump is like their best friend, and they will ride or die for him no matter what. They assume, they have a blind faith, even when something seems bad. They assume there's a broader macro good thing in there if they only trust. Even if it gets like contradictory. They assume there's a reason for it, which is just, it's so forgiving. It's a permission structure. It's so bad. But when they do turn on him, it's because they feel betrayed on a personal connection they thought they had. They keep reaching out to him on Truth Social or whatever, being like, please, President Trump, save me, I'm poor. And then like they feel like he's gonna come through for them, and he's not. I've been okay. I'm gonna get into streaming more consistently. Oh yeah, a lot of people. Oh yeah, if you dig onto social media, there's a sense of personal betrayal. You can find compilations of ex-MAGA people or still MAGA people who are like, yeah, you betrayed every single campaign promise. What's up, man? Like you said you're going to help me. When is that coming? Because I really need it by now. Like, I'm waiting for my Doge check. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. How have you been? It's really bad. It's really bad, but that's how these people think. They think it's going to come any day now. They think they're going to get rich any day now. And gas prices are going up and grocery prices are going up, and they don't know what's getting in the way of that happening for them. Nice, yeah. It's good staying busy. So yeah, they think it's like relief's coming any day now. They still think Trump's on their side. When they do finally fully flip, when they stop giving him the benefit of the doubt and assume people and other factors are in his way, but he's working on it, and they realize he's betrayed them, that is dangerous, right? Because it's like any normal average person will be like, oh, fuck that guy. But when, like, you know, you feel like someone is your best friend and personally on your side, and like a family member, and then you realize how deeply you've been betrayed, they go insane. Like, if you've been in any online fandom, you've seen this. Your biggest haters were your fans yesterday. And then, like, parasocial obsession, like, collapses in like a star into a black hole, and you get that anti-fandom. That's the danger. That's the huge danger. That's the worst danger of all. And like we've seen, it is these big MAGA people who keep getting arrested for attempted terror attacks, for attempted assassinations. That's who it is. That's who's going to do it. Is the gun-toting people who feel like you are a friend or family member or lover who betrayed you very deeply. That's what spurs people to action. If anyone ever does it, it's 9 times out of 10 gonna be a fan who's like turned sour. And like there's no way out. There's like nothing to do from there because the buy-in is so deep, like it's like pulling back a rubber band. When they snap really hard now. And if they want to just like shamefully walk away, they've screwed over everyone so much. They've burned so many bridges to all of their friends and family, especially this time. Like, where are they gonna go? How are they gonna get out, right? Unless they've like everyone's exhausted and is like, fine, whatever, just start being good again, crazy family member. There's nowhere to really turn that, and there's nothing left to lose. All they can do is double down until they snap, and they can snap in a really big way. But yeah, if you're wondering why every crazy assassination attempt and terror attempt has literally just been from a MAGA person, that's why. That's why. Because how much of a clown must you feel if you're literally like wearing his merch and then you realize he's screwing you personally and doesn't care? Like, that embarrassment can turn violent and angry very fast. It's like gamer rage. Like, it's just that personal embarrassment just externalizes. Yeah. It was at least like the 3rd assassination attempt, right? Yeah. There's one like in the news recently, right? So when I think went to Mar-a-Lago, like, I mean, it's the Epstein files is a huge embarrassment point and turning point. The war that's starting is a huge embarrassing turning point. These are the things that really get to people. They were banking on the human suffering from ICE. They don't really care. It's worse than they thought, but they were not the ones personally shot, so they do not care. It's not like an empathy thing. There's no amount of empathy there that can flip them. That was an informed buy-in, but it's economic anxieties, it's war anxieties, and the Epstein files. That's their one culture virtue signal issue, and a lot of them are making peace on the Epstein files. A lot are leaving over it. A lot of them are staying over it because once it's past the point of a virtue signal and something they can like pretend is a rallying cry, at the end of the day, they don't care that they're all pedophiles. What do we know about the Charlie Kirk shooter? Almost nothing. Almost nothing. But we do know there was an outward hyper partisan attempt to paint him as a leftist, and then they did not turn up any evidence of that. They were showing everything they had, and they ran out of things to show. So one may deduce it was not the political layup they were hoping for, because if so, they would be still shouting that from the rooftops. The bullet casings in the Charlie Kirk shooting had a bunch of like weird meme phrases, including a Bella Ciao thing, which if you look up has like ties to Italian anti-fascist old movements. But that's something you have to look up, right? Because that's not a contemporary thing in like modern day leftist circles at all. Because modern day leftist circles have a whole different evolutionary ride-in. Really, where you'd see that, like, you have to look it up. It only lives through like video games, like realistic military video games that would happen to be about that kind of thing. And it really, like anything but the Charlie Kirk shooter, it just seems kind of like terminally online 4chan-y brain rot that's sort of anti-political. You know, it was just a shit show all around. But anyone who tries to blame the Charlie Kirk shooting on leftism is just laughably boomerish. Like, I don't know. I don't even like identify as a leftist, but I'm like, the leftists are not. Were they singing Bella Ciao in Portland before or since? Because after it came to light, a lot of people on the left who did hate Charlie Kirk and saw that was a thing in the connection would definitely take that up. But leading into it, it was like some old, some video game about like sniping and stuff like that. Like it's, yeah. Yeah. What about Luigi? Luigi, also not very political. What we know about Luigi, actually seemed kind of conservative. It is not in Luigi's best interest to be conservative, by the way. Luigi's still in jail. That trial is moving very slow. They did rule out there's like the potential for a death sentence, but it's lots of evidence gathering. Like it's the real world does not work like cop shows, and there's a lot of build up. So I'm just hanging out. I might stop stream here in a minute. But yeah, Luigi trial is very slow and complicated. It seemed apolitical. It seemed like he knew someone personally who was screwed over by the health insurance system. And everyone hates the health insurance system. Like, that's a problem, right? They really tried to politicize the... they really tried to politicize the Luigi thing. And they found that just everyone is on Luigi's side among the people. So then they stopped making news stories out of it. They admitted a news story no matter the site. The vast majority of people were on the side of Luigi. He seems kind of like a basic guy who's not very informed. He's like a Gen Z man, right? So socially conservative. Maybe a little economically populist. So vaguely economically on the left. Can't really do much of that, though. Now, if Luigi's smart, he'll get off for this, and then he'll go on social media, and he'll say, thanks to everybody, I've been away for a while, I wasn't allowed to, engage. But, by the way, free Palestine. And he can smash every single night of his life with a different goth girl. Like, I'm a lesbian. Like, from one girl kisser to another. That's the play. But we'll see. Did did Luigi do it? I really don't know. I don't know. There's a court case going through the evidence, and a lot of it seems very circumstantial. But I don't know. So I'm like burning myself out mentally, and I think I need to eat food and lay down because my blood sugar is getting weird and my blood pressure is getting weird, and I don't want to pass out on camera, and I'm gonna get distracted and forget to eat again. So have a good day, everybody. Bye.